Okay, first item on the agenda is the closed session portion of the meeting. May I have a mover and seconder to go into closed session under the authorities as printed in the agenda? Councillor Smith, Councillor Glavin. All in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried. Okay, rising from closed session, the minutes, council approved the minutes from the closed session, September 11th. And council discussed personal matters, acquisitions of and dispositions of land and matters under solicitor client privilege. In closed session, we did not finish, so we will be going back into closed session at the end of the meeting. Okay, time being 7:01, I'd like to call this meeting to order. First item on the agenda is the traditional territory acknowledgement, followed by a moment of silence. Council of the Township of Red Rock hereby acknowledges that we are on the traditional territory of the Robinson Spirit Treaty and that the land we gather on is home to the Red Rock Indian Band, the Nishnawbek, and Métis people. First item on the agenda is, or second item is Fire Prevention Week proclamation. Proclamation was included in the agenda package. Is everyone okay with that? Don't need to read it. We're all good. Okay. Is there a mover and seconder for a motion to proclaim October 8th to the 14th, 2023 as Fire Prevention Week for the Township of Red Rock? Councillor Muir, Councillor Smith. All in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried. Administration advises that there are no additions to the agenda. Do any members of council wish to make amendments to the agenda? Mark?
Just the one amendment on the date. It's actually, if you look at the top, it's October 10th. It's actually the 2nd. So there was just an error in the date. Administration will correct that moving forward.
Okay. Can I have a mover and seconder for a motion to approve the agenda as amended with the change to the date? Councillor Muir, Councillor Gladden. All in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried. Are there any declarations of interest to disclose? Okay, seeing none. So tonight we have Silvio De Gregorio from Bruno's Contracting, here to discuss the residential development, the water and sewer options, and anything else you'd like to provide. Welcome, welcome. I hope you had a great drive, good drive down.
Yeah, actually, structure.
Okay, good. Yeah, so
Does that sound better? Anyway, good evening. Thank you for having me. I'm here to first of all report to council that the acquisitions of the land finally been finalized. The purchase from the railroad did take a little bit longer than any of us had suspected, but it has happened. So we are the owner of all of the properties right now. We're here to sort of revisit the options for the development, and we'd like to work with council on it. So at the time that we had agreed to purchase the land, we had proposed a development that included full urban services, sewer, water, stormwater, curb and gutter. And there was some work that the municipality would need to do to get that. I mean, that always assumed that the municipality would be able to get some funding, for it. So we're sort of at that stage again. We'd like to discuss with council whether they still wish to proceed with a full urban service development, and if they do not wish, then we can look at doing some other type of development, either suburban or rural, whatever the wishes of council are. Clearly, with full urban services, you can obtain the highest density. The plan with full urban services, I forget, I have it in here, but it's like 19 or 20 single family lots, and there's probably another 50 or 60 multiples. And those do take some time, to develop, but at least it would be available, Should the municipality not wish to proceed along that basis, we can propose other options, we look at servicing the property with just municipal water and septics. That would reduce the number of lots to possibly 15 to 20 or something, but we'd like to hear from council if they have any questions and how they wish us to proceed. And if you need some time, let us know. But we certainly want to start construction this winter with the clearing and things like that, and the process of the applications and any other environmental that's required. The process does get lengthy. Nothing happens overnight, but we're ready to first of all answer any questions that council may have, and then discuss any options that they may wish us to consider. Thank you.
Councillor Muir.
So just a question with regards to, I mean, for the lot itself, I'm in full favor of having it fully serviced. We have that wastewater plant that's brand new. There's no point in not sending waste down to it. Starting running issues with septic tanks, and then you're losing the houses and everything else. But I guess my question is, if we're going to go like with the 50, 60 multiples, I actually have two questions. Number one would be, how many lots would be sold prior, so we'd get an idea, because the cost of the estimates that we're seeing are fairly high. So how many would we look at? Would you be willing to say, okay, you know what, I'll sell 20, then the municipality puts that in, or is this something you want us to do right now, then start selling? Because if it's going to take about 25 years to fill and start going through, that's going to be tough to swing, right? And the other option would be in some of the back lots. I can't really make out, but I think it's HD1 along the back line. So is there any consideration to put in some higher condos, something for those people that don't want to do the lots, that, still want to live in Red Rock, but can have a nice condo living, 6 stories type deal. So right about 628, you can see the line along the top there. And you've got the big lots there. I'm just wondering if, like, right along that back line, would there be any consideration to put in, apartments or whatnot, condos for?
All of those lots are medium density or high density.
Okay.
So those will occupy, multi-level.
Okay.
But it depends on the market again.
Right.
As to how many. The development, we would have to construct it before we could sell any lots.
Right.
All the services would have to be constructed before we can register the plan.
Okay.
Okay. So we could not sell any lots until we do all of the development. And the services required by the municipality, which is the force main, would have to be done the same time as our work.
Yeah.
Because it's required to pump the sewer up to 628.
Right.
Because the land is so low, all of the sanitary sewer will flow down to the bend, the 90-degree bend.
Right.
That's where the pump station would be required, and the force main, it would pump the sewage from there up to 628 so that it could flow by gravity from there. So a decision of which way to develop needs to get decided before
prior
we
to
start.
any sales. Yeah.
And again, we're prepared to work with the municipality in whatever direction they'd like us to go. Oh, sorry, one more question. As far as what we would do here, we would develop, then we would sell lots for individuals. We would also build a home, a model home that we could use to try to sell lots or units. Okay, but as far as the take up, it'll vary, and right now the cost to construct is atrocious. Okay. There was a filming crew that came to Thunder Bay to do a story on housing. They contacted us to say, where can we go shoot some filmage where there's some homes being built? We had to send them to Papoonj. Like there's really no single family homes under construction in Thunder Bay right now. There's a shortage of lots, but also the cost to build. Like a basic 1,200 square foot bungalow or something is over $400 a square foot. It is insane. Thunder Bay right now has probably the highest cost in Canada to build. We look at statistics on cost to build right across Canada, and the East Coast is still the most economical. They're building for like 230, 240 a square foot. You know, Manitoba and Saskatchewan is next. BC and Ontario is at the top. Thunder Bay is worse than Ontario. There's just no capacity for builders. I mean, cost of materials is part of it, but the reality is you can't get anybody to do the work. There's no tradespeople. We need to start getting immigrants to move to Northwestern Ontario that are tradesmen, plumbers, electricians, mechanics, bricklayers, carpenters. That's what we lack. And that's what's principally driving the cost up.
Councillor Smith?
So with all that said, how would that then impact us building here in Red Rock? You know, so you develop the land, knowing then the cost is 400 plus square foot. Do you, in your experience, because you're more experienced than anybody else, how quickly do you see, 10 lots being developed, like sold, and people like? Is there a demand? Do you see a demand for it? Based on what you're saying, it's too much money to build. So do we start now? Do we wait till the price comes down?
I'm not sure. I'm hoping that the cost will come down, but I'm not sure that we're going to see that quickly. I think it's going to take 10 years for this to, to start getting enough tradespeople back in the area to build or whatever. However, having said that, there is a market for people to buy the lots and build their own homes because they sort of do it with themselves, some friends, some things like that. I mean, we would put the lots up for sale. We would build one model home, and then essentially before you build anything else, you'd have to have a sale for it, eh? But I would hope that probably 10 homes would get built within 5 years of the lots being available for sale. But
Do you, a couple questions. Do you think it's a negative impact then if we go with a sewer system or their own, and then we provide water services? Like that?
I'm not sure. I'd have to have a look at your zoning bylaw, whether you have a suburban standard. A suburban standard is municipal water and septic fields. This would eliminate, the sewage part. We have lots in Thunder Bay. They tend to be larger lots. You tend to get some bigger homes, but you also get fewer homes.
And then
because of the
would a
size.
septic field or a sewer system, whatever you want to call it, would that impact if you have a medium density building? Or I don't know how that
The
works.
medium density buildings would be difficult to do septic. You could probably do one or two right at the top of 628 because the land is high enough. The chunk of land on the other side of the railroad lands, that could possibly, have full sewer and water because that land is higher. It would flow by gravity to the sewer that's on the other side of 628. But the rest of the land, you would have to go either a pump station and a force main or just municipal water. And actually the plan, if we were to go with just a suburban standard, which is the lots would be 100 feet to 120 feet of frontage by about 200. They tend to be about half an acre in size. So they are nicer lots. Okay, but the end result is the home that would be built on there would probably end up being more custom built, would be a more expensive home.
Any other questions? Counselor Smith?
How long do you think it would take you to, say we come up with, we make a decision, we do whatever decision we make, to then clear the land to prepare it for sale? Is that, it could be a 2-year mark or?
It's approximately 2 years. There's a lot of fill that needs to get moved. It will also depend on whether we go with the full urban services or the suburban standard. The suburban standard would be the lots are larger, so there's not as much earth that would have to get moved. A new plan would have this configuration would not work for a suburban standard because the lots need to be about 200 feet deep. Okay, so, but the clearing, you know, I think we should look at about a 2-year window before anything would be available to build on. And that's assuming that things go smoothly with the approval process, you know, because again, we will have to prepare a draft plan, submit it to council for approval before really any of the municipal infrastructure can be constructed, eh? We could start clearing and moving dirt, but we're not going to move dirt until we know where the road's going to go. You know, and the road will vary depending on which, and we're fine with either proposal. Like, I mean, we like to work with councils, with municipalities. We don't like to row upstream, as I like to say it. Let's get in a room. Let's figure out what works for everybody, and we'll do our best. That's all we can say.
Do you think that it's a negative impact then if we were to go with the split service with the?
Not at all.
No,
It will
okay.
reduce the number of units that you will have.
Right, okay.
Okay, but the lots will be bigger and
Just
and-
because we know the financing for a lift station is between 500 and $1 million is what, and we did lobby the government already once, but
Yeah.
we know we'll, if we do decide to do full services, we would have to go
Yeah.
out them pretty good.
It's difficult to come up. I think a couple of years ago when we made the proposal, we did a budget estimate, which was maybe around 660. But until you design it, you really don't know. And that would go out to tender. You know, we wouldn't, since we're part of the development, I mean, it should go out to public tender, let everybody bid on it. I mean, we could bid on it also, but you know, it would go to the lowest bidder to get what the price would be. But it's hard and the cost has gone up on everything. This COVID has not done anybody any favors. And I think everybody's just using it as an excuse to jack up the price. I don't know.
Councilor Muir?
What if it was a phased in project where the higher level was developed first? Where we can get those homes sold and, you know, those lots are developed up on the higher level, run gravity feedback through, and then phase 2 would be down here. Because again, I'm back to the lift station. If at some point, you know, depending on how the top portion goes, you know, then you would sell those ones down there. And then honestly, if we've got 50 houses up top or however many you can put in there, I mean, then, I mean, it's starting to fund itself. Would it be possible to phase something in, starting at the higher levels, gravity feed, and then work your way down? Because we still have environmental assessments, I'm assuming, that have to get done to see exactly where those lots would sit. So starting high and then working down towards the lake, maybe.
The only thing that you'd be able to do without the pump station pretty much be the land on the other side of the railroad, one multiple. And it's hard to sell a multiple when you don't have a community. The multiples tend to be the last ones to go. You know, pretty much from day one, when you start to design and construct, we would need to decide which way. And again, we're fine with either way. Okay. If we were to go with suburban services, then all the municipality would need to do is bring the water across 628 and that's it. There's not very much. And then we take it, from there because it's the sanitary sewer that has the big cost. And there's no rush, if council needs some time to consider, we're not here to say we need this decision tomorrow or, we're here to discuss the options, advise you with whatever information we know. I mean, we don't know everything, but whatever we know, we'll share with you and we'll work with you, whatever way makes sense for council and the municipality.
Any other questions, comments? I don't think we have any more, but we're extremely happy that after 3 or 4 years that you finally own all of that property. And it looks like we will be moving forward, however that's going to look. I would hope in the next couple of months we can come to some resolution and move forward that way.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. And
Yeah.
again, no rush. We're here to work with you. Okay.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Have a safe drive home.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, the open session minutes of the last regular meeting, September 11th, are at items 5.1 of the agenda. Are there any errors or omissions to note in the minutes? Can I have a mover and seconder for motion to approve the minutes at open session? Councilor Muir. Councilor Gladden. All in favor? All hands rising, motion is carried. Okay, item 6.1, information purposes only regarding a summary from NOMA on the AMO conference. Any members of council have any remarks on this item? We do have a few of these, seeing none. 6.2, information purposes only relating to an update from NOMA on the current concerns for Northwestern Ontario. Do any members of council have any questions or remarks? Seeing none. Item 6.3, information purposes only regarding minutes from the Thunder Bay District Municipal League meeting in June. Do any members of council have any questions or remarks? We got lots of minutes here. Oh, Councillor Glenn.
There was a comment about the food cycle program. I didn't know what the response was from Terrace Bay on that.
I would have to follow up on that.
Okay,
I'm
no
not
worries.
sure.
I just thought maybe there was something that could be shared before we to that. Worries.
You want to turn anything up? 6.4, information purposes only regarding the minutes from the NOMA board meeting in June. Do any members of council have any questions? 6.5, information or discussion purpose regarding the minutes from the Thunder Bay District Health Unit meeting in June. Do any members of council have any questions? Seeing none. A lot of minutes. 6.6, information purposes regarding a thank you from Minister of Finance for the delegation at the AMO conference. Any questions? 6.7, information purposes only regarding a thank you from, did I just read that? Nope, it's another one. Ministry of Transportation for the delegation at the AMO conference. Any members have any questions? So just note that we did get confirmation, right, Minister of Transportation, that Highway 628 in 2025 is going to be resurfaced. Thank goodness. Culverts being replaced, repaired, and some gravel like this, whatever you want to call that. That was confirmed from Minister Mulrooney.
Yes, and I mean, you'll see some of that process starting now with some of the engineering work and that on 628. But yeah, full verbal commitment that 2025 will be a reconstruction year for the 8-kilometer stretch of 628.
Okay, 6.8 is for information and discussion purposes regarding municipal food waste diversion pilot program. Do any members of council have any questions on this? Council Brand?
I'm just curious as how do they get the 50 households to sign up?
So I'll jump in there. So basically I shared this as it was something that we sat in on or Councillor Gladden saw at I believe it was at the NOMA, or was it NOMA, and then again at AMO. So great question. I think what we shared it on this agenda for was hopefully to see if council had an interest in them coming as a delegation at our next meeting, and they can go through those parts of the process. I've met them briefly and told them that when you look at an expense cost to a township like that, it would be something that we would ideally implement during in a budget. But the direction, and Councillor Gladden might have some other answers on that, but the direction we were looking for council was to see if council was interested in having them come as a delegation at our next meeting.
Councillor Gladden?
Yeah, I did some research today. I know that certain municipalities around in the North Shore, like Terrace Bay and Nebing, actually, they do put out a sort of like a something on Facebook just saying who would be interested. I mean, we'd have to have the 50 people before we start the program, but I really think that it's an important I think it's an important program, personally, to eliminate the wet waste that we have in our landfill. And I just think with our strategic plan of environmental sustainability, I think it looks good on us, and I think it's a good program. And like we're not the first people to do this. A lot of people in our area are doing it, and I think that having Jacob coming in to do a delegation would be awesome.
Councillor Muir?
Yeah, I unfortunately have a difference of opinion on this when I read it. There shouldn't be a cost to anybody. I mean, if we can put it out and people want to pay the full cost, but I don't think we should just subsidize it through the municipality at all. I think the focus instead of the wet waste needs to be the plastic. And if we're gonna put a little bit of money into the wet waste, we should be investing that money into the recycling program. If we're gonna invest any money in any kind of recycling whatsoever, it should be the plastic wastes, because that is what's impacting our waste, our dumps, because the wet waste is going to break down anyway, ultimately, versus the plastics that are sitting in there. That's just my opinion. If we're going to spend money, it should be on something to get that out of there. I think that would prolong our dump a little longer.
Any other questions or comments? I did speak with Jacob as I was at the AMO conference and seen these containers, and it was actually pretty fantastic. I like the idea. I think this is a cost that the municipality should invest in. The homeowners are going to get a machinery, like if anybody has a bread maker or an ice machine at home, it's that small. It converts the to compost in 4 hours, 8 hours. I would like to see, I would like him to still come and make a delegation or presentation, but also I think it would be beneficial if we had an expression of interest who would be interested and if we have the 50 people, then we know that it's a go, then you know that the community is invested in this program. That's my opinion on that. Councillor Smith.
I'm fine with, having a delegation here to speak. I'm still on the fence. Again, I don't know if I'm ready to vote to pay money for any of this, but I have no problem with people talking to me.
So can I have a show of hands on that? If we would like to see Jacob come.
I would.
Anyone else? Yeah, A delegation, okay. And is it okay that we have an expression of interest, like we can make a post and see, because then you'll know if it's worthwhile and.
Yeah, and like I said, I think the timing would be ideal around budget time if that was the discussion, because there is I mean, there is an investment from the municipality, so but expressions of interest, I think that it's kind of how they guide that process as well, so it's something we might be looking at, so I think that might be a way to advertise it.
Councilor Muir.
Yeah, so even though it's not budget time, if people, you get 70 people that want to do it, that are willing to pay, what was it, $50 or they want 150, say they wanted to pay the full cost. I mean, can people buy this individually just for themselves if they, or was it part of the deal?
If they were to buy a unit, it would be either, I think, $500 or $800 full cost. So we would be offering 150 for the smaller unit and 300 for the bigger unit. And they would keep it. Like, I mean, it's a 12-week program. And they would keep the unit afterwards. They would just have to have 5 filters or whatever throughout the thing. But I know that myself, I have a lot of waste. And I put it in my freezer and just try to grind it up in my food processor. And I just think we're limiting garbage to what, 6 bags? 6 bags? I could probably reduce mine to 1. Just saying.
Yeah, and I think I may suggest that I reach out to Jacob and schedule, you'll have a virtual, I would assume, delegation at our next meeting, and maybe we hold off till that point and see where he goes. It's only 2 weeks, right? We're meeting again on the 16th of October, and we can field these questions, and then maybe he's got generic ways of advertising that as well, and I can reach out to him, as early as tomorrow, and I'm sure he'll be more than accepting of a delegation on the 16th.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, item 6.9, information purposes only regarding an update from the DSAB board. Any members of council have any questions? No remarks? You see none. 6.10, discussion purposes relating to the annual cross-country run at St. Hilary School. Do any members of council have any remarks? Councilor Smith.
I take it that we've donated in the past for this. So does it make sense we just do the same as we normally do?
So historically, the last couple of years, we've been donating $250. I'm not sure what our last one was, but.
Correct. Our last year was $250. That's what council went with.
Okay, is there a mover and seconder for a motion to approve a donation to St. Hilary School cross-country run in the amount of $250? Councilor Smith. Councilor Gladden, all in favor? All hands rising, motion is carried. $6.11 is information purposes only regarding a thank you from the Red Rock Indian Band for the donation to the Salmon Derby. Do any members of council have any remarks? Seeing none, information, 6.12, information purposes only regarding the minutes from the DSAB board meeting in June. Do any members of council have any remarks? Everyone takes the summer off and then we get all these meetings. 6.13, information purposes only regarding the 2024 annual billing statement and significant OPP. Do any members of council have any remarks? Everybody see the breakdown?
It's not like we can say no.
Right. Okay. Okay, moving on. 6.14, information purposes only regarding a thank you from the Ministry of Northern Development for the delegation at the AMO conference. Do any members of council have any remarks? Does that mean? Seeing none. Oh, Councilor Brand.
So in it, it says, you talked about the development of a wastewater lift station and Mr. or Councilor Muir had said, I believe it was him, that it was between $500 and $1 million. So that, is that a correct amount?
Well, I'm going to say yes, that is what we discussed with the ministers.
Okay.
We did say that we have a proposal coming, residential development. Just because that day Premier Ford was there, talking a lot about, providing all this money to municipalities, but, you have to have 50,000 people or more. So I did bring that up saying, how does that help us, our small communities? Something like a lift station would be what we're looking for, not, everything else for all the developers. So I'm not sure if they liked that or not, but we did get that point across.
Yeah, and I think those are general estimates. I mean, you saw that we had an estimate from, I believe it was 2019, 660 or 619,000. I would venture a guess that has gone up significantly through, and I think Mr. De Gregorio said it best, is, I mean, until you know the scale of the project, it's hard to price out, but let's be honest, we're looking at replacing core infrastructure on mechanical and electrical on our two current lift stations. It's happening as we speak. Some of the work is already being engineered, and it looks like we'll have a completion on that project in the not so distant future. And I believe that project, which was fully funded, went back through the wastewater facility. We were able to get that fully funded. I think we were in the range of about an addition of 1.4, 1.3 million. And again, that two stations and electrical and mechanical. So we didn't touch the core foundations of the bases and that. So I think you're in a general ballpark, but I would say it's north of the 660 or 619. I think it was that we were using as a projection. Nonetheless, we would need a significant amount of money to build a lift station for sure.
Okay, moving on. Item 7.1 are the minutes from the Committee of Adjustment meeting held on September 15th. Do any members of council have any remarks, questions, or remarks? Seeing none. Okay, is there a mover and seconder for motion to receive the minutes? Councillor Gladden, Councillor Muir, all in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried. Item 7.2 are the minutes from the Red Rock Public Library Board meeting held on June 13th. Do members of council have any questions or remarks? Seeing none, is there a mover and seconder for motion to receive the minutes? Councillor Smith, Councillor Gladden. Put Muir, sorry. All in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried. Need a coffee. Okay, items 8.1, report on administrative activities. So I'll leave it up to Mark. Mark, if you want to give a verbal update on the direction and discussion portion.
Yeah. We can do that. It's been busy. We've been taking on a lot with a limited staff at the last little bit. We do have a couple of staff members off on medical. We wish them well. But we're making our way through. If we start with the recreation center, we're working through the process of that lease now. We're very optimistic. I had significant amounts of interest in that, and we're working through going past the expression of interest stage, very shortly this week, and we'll be looking for further information on that. So that's positive. Lucy Red Pebbles finished up this week, and we thank her for the last 5 years, for sure. Office closure, again, mostly related to staffing. So tomorrow and Wednesday, the office will be closed to the public. 2 members, both myself and the deputy clerk, are undergoing compliance testing for CEMC, which we're very close. We've completed IMS 100, EM 200 this week, tomorrow, Wednesday, and for myself, Thursday, we'll be completing the EM 300 course and then one final course in December. We're on target and scheduled for, so the township will meet compliance based around CEMC. Again, thanks to council for being so patient with something like an office closure and that at this time, because we staff really is putting in a lot of extra right now and pretty limited. I think we have one person in the building tomorrow, and they're handling a lot of pertinent information and details that need to be done this week. So again, thank you for that. I'll come back to number 3, but Roma annual conference, the information starting to come out. So that's just a general reminder of council that is in Toronto in January. So whether council will bring that back, but whether the Township of Red Rock is sending delegations or delegates and where we'll go with that, but that's just fresh out. The property severance that Mr. Tedesco was going through is been put on hold for the time being now. So I just wanted to generally update that with council. We'll take the guide when they're ready, or if they are ready to proceed further. But at this time, that project has been put on a temporary hold. Property standards process. It was brought to my attention for discussion. I will reiterate that the municipality works on a basis of being reactive, or we act on complaints. We're not currently staffed in the manner of a full-time property standards officer. And again, I stress that we are significantly shorthanded at the time. If this is the way we're going to continue to go, we can discuss that. If there's any change of direction and council wants to, change how we meet property standards, then we're all ears on that. I did numerous phone calls to other municipalities on how they handle it and how they deal with property standards issues, and it's a significant challenge in most communities. I mean, even speaking with the city, it's not out of character to have numerous property standards orders on one property. It's not an easy process. I'm not sure anyone who can compare it to a landlord-tenant kind of situation now. It's complicated. We try our best to meet the requests we get, and we'll continue to do that, but unless there's a change of direction. But I mean, it's also an issue sometimes that is different for every particular situation, whether it's a financial matter. There's many different factors to property standards. We take it seriously. I think personally, when I look around the community, I think Red Rock is a lot better than most. But are we aware that there's a handful or more of significant issues that we're trying to deal with? Certainly, we're tackling them the best we can, and open to suggestions and discussion of council as it was brought to the table.
Councilor Muir.
Yeah, no, I think that's well said, Mark. I think the reality of the situation is, yeah, that the town's doing what they can 100%. I think maybe, there's, like you said, you drive through some towns and there's many more. I think there's a few folks in this town that really need to clean their yards. We've got a lot of hours being put in by volunteers, beautification, and just pick up your garbage on your front lawn. Just clean up your stuff. We're paying taxes. Just clean up. Be a friendly neighbor and tell them to clean their yard. A lot of people volunteering to make this place look beautiful. So civic pride is number 1. I just wanted to say that. Clean your yard if it's dirty.
Any other questions or comments? I know it is a struggle with a few homeowners. I do believe some of it is socio-economical factors. That plays a part of it, how we can work towards a better process, maybe to help people out. I'm not sure, but I think we'll just continue moving forward and looking into maybe ways that we can help out individuals or families, right? Because it's like you said, it's not every house, but Council Brand.
Just wondering about like houses, properties that maybe have some vehicles that shouldn't be there. When we have our cleanup week, is it an option for us to say also if you have vehicles that you'd like to have removed? I know the fire department does use old vehicles in some of their training, so would that be an option? Because it might be too expensive for somebody to try to get that towed out of their yard. So is that something we could maybe think about?
I think that's a good idea. I think maybe Mark can talk with Director of Operations, and when they notice vehicles that are, I don't know what the word is, like, not being used for a long period of time, maybe that can be mentioned to that homeowner, just saying, and they can work with the fire department and saying, maybe you want to use this for training purposes.
No, for sure. I'm not sure if that is part of our cleanup week. I can get you an answer, but I can certainly speak with Blair on that for sure.
Councilor Brand.
Just remembered also, maybe we could let people who have those types of vehicles know that Team Challenge will come and pick up, and they'll also give you a tax receipt. So that might be something else we want to maybe let people know.
Thank you. Any other comments on that?
Nope.
Okay.
Just on the recommendation from JML for the rehabilitation of Red Rock Bridge #1. If there was any questions of council, but the recommendation in front of you today is to award the tender to KEM Construction. It's at a cost of $218,958.97. It is ready to move forward with the approval of council this evening. And that's for the rehabilitation and securing of Bridge 1, part of our NORDS funding allotment. So ready to go. You can see that the project will go through and be extended to December 15th of 2023, but by all indications in discussions with JML leading to it, KEM Construction feels that they can get the job completed this year.
Councilor Muir. We have used KEM before, correct? For bridge repairs.
Yeah, I
I do
believe
believe-
we have,
okay.
especially with the wooden structures, because there's so many, there's not a lot of companies that technically specialize in the timber bridges, the old timber bridges, so.
Councilor Gladden.
Yeah, I was questioning the difference in quotes, but JML has ensured that they were KAM was satisfied. There was no errors or omissions, so I'm good with that.
Yeah, I think what you end up seeing now is probably what you're seeing here is somebody that not necessarily maybe is able to take the quote, or but you'll see no bid and you'll see one that's significantly more than the other. I don't know. I know right now in the world of the tendering process and the construction companies, I know that a lot of that happens now where you'll put a bid in not necessarily wanting it.
Okay, is there a mover and seconder for a motion to award KEM Construction the rehabilitation Red Rock Bridge #1 project in the amount of $218,958.97? Councilor Muir, Councilor Gladden, all in favor? All in favor? Hands rising, motion's carried. Okay, is there a mover and seconder for a motion to receive the report? Counselor Meir, Counselor Smith. All in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried. Thanks, Mark. Okay, item 8.2, report on the health and safety policy. Do any members of council have questions? Well, Mr. Pickney. Counselor Meir.
It's well written. I just want to put a motion in. Accept it as well written.
No comments? Seeing that? Just get your hand up there, okay.
So it's a mandatory document from that the township needs to pass. Not necessarily am I saying you need to pass this one. You have to, it has to be passed by council, but it is a mandatory document by the Ministry of Labor that we require moving forward.
Okay, is there a mover and seconder for a motion to approve the health and safety policy for the Township of Red Rock? Counselor Meir, Counselor Smith. All in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried. Okay, 8.3 is for discussion and approval process relating to the arena ice programming fee. So Mark will explain a little bit of why they've come to this amount, and we can talk about it.
Yeah, certainly. So basically what you see there is what we're trying, kind of a promotion, hopefully trying to generate some interest in our ice surface. We talked about adult skate, we talked about learn to skate, power skate, those kind of events or those kind of programs. So we thought, well, let's try to put an incentive out there for somebody to try it in Red Rock. So we thought, well, let's go half price and see if we can get some programming going as a start. So the reason it's in front of council is because it is on our fee schedule. So it's a decision of council for us to go away from our fee schedule. So we want to put this kind of promotion out there, as well as some regional advertising. We're ready to put an ad into the Thunder Bay paper. We're trying to promote the arena. And see if we can get some additional usage and additional revenue from the arena. So it's kind of a plan we're asking council's approval of.
Counselor Gladden?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if it would go also to out of town teams. Would it also be for that? No?
No, it's more of a programming rate to try to be inclusive to everyone. But I mean, for example, learn to skate, power skating, those kind of events. So I think, I guess it's not written that way for the out of towns. I mean, council, we could go that route if so desired, but I think our rate for the usage of our arena is significantly fair, especially when you're looking at some of the rates in the city. But again, we're open to those thoughts, but this was generally for a programming kind of fee, right? So more for the local programming activities.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Brand?
And this would just be for this season, try it out. And see.
Yeah, I mean, that would be the decision of council. I mean, each year we bring the fee schedule for the annual fee schedule. So I mean, if it worked, we could keep it. We could keep it on, and then if it didn't, I mean, it's up to council then to. There's just a kind of an adjustment to I guess what you'd call a late season fee schedule. So we could do it either way in that case. We could report back if it's successful and go that way.
I'm in favor of trying this. Counselor Smith?
Name tag. Do we have currently a decent amount of interest already prior to the fee? If we do go for fee change, do you have anybody saying, oh, I'd like to do a program, or is there?
Well, we've had some discussions. Sure, we've started some discussions, and I mean, we're optimistic. It's again a bit of a challenge, right? Because the user groups aren't there, right? So you've kind of got to go outside the box a bit. So we've had some discussions. I think it's definitely worth a try. We we have specific programming rates in other areas in the building, and I think this is a good way to at least hopefully generate some interest. So we'll reach out and see where we can go.
Okay, is there a mover and seconder for a motion to approve an ICE programming fee in the amount of $35? Councillor Gladden, all in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried. Okay, item 9.1 is a bylaw to appoint an integrity commissioner for the Township of Red Rock. Do members of the council have any questions?
No, sorry,
Oh, well,
it's the Infrastructure Ontario
yeah.
debenture bylaw.
okay. There we go. Okay, item 9.1 is the borrowing and amortization debenture in the principal amount of $1,272,569.94 towards the cost of the ISP Green, Brompton, Stadler, Frost, Newton Water and wastewater rehabilitation and replacement, ICIP Culture Recreation and Rehabilitation Project. Anyone have any questions on this? Councilor Mayor.
So at any time we come into a large sum of money, could this be paid off? I
Yeah,
think-
so,
yeah.
again, this more than likely should have been in place 3 years ago, going into the projects that we undertook.
Yes.
I think the process has been at least a year now, if not a year and a half, to get to this process with the debenture. It's a 25-year debenture. We've been significantly pinched for the last little bit, and at times fortunate to have some money come in the last year and a half based on property tax arrears. I don't know where we would have been without that, but it also gave us the ability to temporarily borrow from ourselves and save significant amounts of interest. This will cover both of those projects. It'll enable us to debenture those projects and move forward. At any given time, if you came across a substantial amount of money, there is, as in most cases, penalties to pay something early and this and that, but knowing the infrastructure and the funding from the province, I would say significantly falling on more money will be a stretch. But in saying that, this is the way to plan for projects and to borrow for projects, unless you have a significant amount of money going into those projects. So this puts us in a comfort stage now to say that the projects that we had on the go and have completed are now able to pay for it. And we're paying for them over 25 years, but it allows us to operate moving forward.
Councilor Brand?
So when this was brought to us on December 19th, at that time, there was discussion that we had the funds and we could use the gas tax. So I sort of had assumed that money was already here for this. We had that money somewhere.
The gas tax money?
Well, one of the examples was that the money could be, like, the gas tax could be used to pay this, and the I don't know what OCIF. I haven't, yeah, so that's what I believe Ms. Davies had said.
So the OCIF funding is for capital infrastructure, so water, wastewater, sewer, those type of funding models. Gas tax is a little bit more flexible on some of what you can use it for, but a lot of times being able to stack those against the borrowing, against the funding already in place from from the province or the feds isn't always an option. But we still have an allocation of OSIF. We will use some of that OSIF money for additional costs on the bridge, for example. And gas tax is an annual fund that we get as well. And we'll use that for many projects throughout the year.
So this is over 25 years.
Correct.
What is the impact then to the taxpayers? Is it going to increase our taxes again?
So we set taxes based on council on how we operate. So I guess but we've built this number knowing that the payment was going to be, so this number is built in to even the portion left for the 2023 year. I guess the best way to answer it, as you spend money, then without cutting, there's a chance that costs go up for sure. I mean, I can't sit here and say we took on $1.2 million worth of infrastructure or projects and it's not going to cost us money. But they are built into the budget. So if you look at the payments, let's just say, for example, those payments are $100,000 a year. That portion was built into the 2023 budget based on the fact of when we were to get approval. So continuing knowing that each year we are going to have to make those biannual payments.
Is it possible to use a portion of the 2.1 million that we received to pay down even the 500,000 on this, and then make our payments less and shorter? Is that money available for us to use on something like this?
Well, I think if that was the direction of council, we would have had to have that direction a long time ago. But I mean, once we pay ourselves back from our borrowing, we may find ourselves in a position that we could use money towards that. We could also invest money or reinvest into our reserves, which we haven't been able to do for numerous years. So what we are doing is planning. We're planning for the future. We're planning for future projects. We're planning for what could happen. You take a prime example tonight where you're talking about an infrastructure or a development project that you may want to undertake, right? So if we're going to take on $1 million project, then we really want to be planning for that future. When you look at where Red Rock has been in the last few years, we haven't been able to invest into our reserves. We haven't been investing into investments at all, right? So I mean, I guess the direction would be from council. If council wasn't in favor of the direction that management is suggesting based on moving forward and putting the community into a good spot moving forward. So I guess that's the best way I could answer that.
Yeah, and I understand that we have to do those types of things, but I also understand that there's a lot of hardship to our taxpayers as well, right? So that's why I was just thinking if we were able to use some of that, it's a little burden off the taxpayer.
Councillor Gladden?
I think this is the most responsible way to do it right at this point. Really, $90,000 a year towards a debenture over 25 years compared to something that we can't, to put all our money into one basket. I don't really think that's really responsible. I think this is a good way to go. We got it, there was debt that this council and this administration had got into, and I really think this is the best way to go about it.
I think as you spread it out over the 25 years, I think the general answer would be it is the responsible way to do it. And I hope that would translate into more fair and equitable tax rate for sure. Because you're spreading that out, right? You're spreading it out over, I mean, over a term. This is a borrowing from the government, right? This is Infrastructure Ontario. In an ideal world, you're correct. We would have enough money to just not have to borrow money, but that is not the true reality of what we face in Red Rock. So this is, I think, the most responsible way to build the community moving forward.
Councillor Muir?
Yeah, I do recall there was borrowing for this facility. If I'm not mistaken, there was borrowing for this facility. So it's happened. It is the way to go. We do need the money in reserve funds.
We
But it needs to be there.
We still have a significant amount of borrowing with Infrastructure Ontario on this current facility. And we have other loans with Infrastructure Ontario based on other infrastructure in the community. So it's not rewriting a book here. This is, especially in your small and rural Northern Ontario communities, we're faced with borrowing to add to our infrastructure.
Councillor Smith?
I just want to say, I do agree. I think that the smarter move is to do, as you suggest, with the borrowing and leave us the money we do have for other issues that may come up that won't be covered by anything else. I'd rather have that nest egg to cover ourselves rather than leave ourselves in a bad situation like maybe past has been.
Councillor Muir?
Just one more too, and keeping that money in the bank will pay for the interest on this. I mean, so, I mean, the equity we earn on that, so.
Yeah, it's almost like, I mean, the interest rates on the borrowing as opposed to the interest rates on investing are pretty similar at the moment. You're correct. I mean, if we took $1 million and we now invested that, you know, you could easily bring, 5% in a GIC to that. Again, it's all about future planning, right? It's sometimes you got to remember that funding from the government is not always something you just want to jump at, right? You have to plan for it. You have to have a plan moving forward. We could write grants. We have a skilled grant writer. We could write grants at any given time and more than likely have some success. What you do have to remember is that on most cases, 33% of that is township dollars. So if you got a grant for $1 million, you need 333,000 of your own municipal dollars to go through. We went through a couple of situations today where we were talking about, again, a lift station in the future. I mean, if we got to the stage and we couldn't get funding and we had to build, or we council made a decision that, hey, we want to provide this lift station, then we would need that money, right? Another classic example might be EMS. I mean, we are being told that at some point there's going to be a consolidation of bases. I mean, that is the township's responsibility. If it was the township of Red Rock that decided we wanted to build that facility, that might be a $3 million project that you upfront, right? Into a lease. So again, it's about planning. I'm a big advocate in planning, especially with some history, and remembering that at some times, because somebody is providing you a funding option, it might not be the right time to accept it.
Okay, is there a mover and seconder for motion to pass the Infrastructure Ontario debenture bylaw? Councillor Smith? Councillor Gladden? All in favor? All hands are rising, motion is carried. Okay, may I have a mover and seconder for a motion to go into closed session as we didn't finish from previous under the authorities as printed in the agenda? Councillor Brand, Councillor Muir. Time being 8:10. All hands rise. Motion's carried. Okay, rising from closed session, we discussed personal matters and Solicitor client privilege in closed session. So next item is the bylaw to confirm proceedings of council. Can I have a mover and seconder to pass the bylaw? Council Brand, Council Muir. All in favor? All hands rising, motion is carried. Time being 8:37. I'd like to call, next meeting is October 16th. No further business to attend to. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.